Mm, Good morning. Am I live? I don't know how to work this thing. Good morning. How are you guys? Am I doing this right? Can you all, y'all see me? Okay, I see you over there. Hey, good morning, Gabby. Okay, good morning, Shantae. Okay, I've never gone live on my computer before, y'all. Sorry. Good morning, Shayna Bina. Whew. All right. So, of course, I am here to pray for our fourth day of our fast, and I am going to be. I don't even know where to look because this is so weird to me. Um, I'm going to be addressing marriages and God's design for marriage. So, quick little story. I wasn't going to do the whole lesson and lead to the prayer and all of that jazz this morning, but here we are, and I'm being obedient because that's what this fast is all about, growing closer to God and what He desires for us. So I am going to do a whole little lesson about God's design for marriage, and then we'll pray. So if you look at the world, of course, and they give us a whole lot of definitions of something that God designed. And we know that God put forth marriage as the primary and foundational institution for families. So I'm going to be coming from Ephesians 5. And I'm going to read verses 21 through 33. And I like the message version of this passage. So I am going to be reading from the message version, and I'm going to read it. So I'm going to look away to my phone. Um, Ephesians 21 through 33. Out of respect for Christ, be courteously reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ, as he exercises such leadership, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. Husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring out the best of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. And that is how husbands ought to love their wives. They're really doing themselves a favor since they're already one in marriage. No one abuses his own body, does he? No, he feeds and pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church. Since we are part of his body, and this is why a man leaves father and mother and cherishes his wife. No longer two, they become one flesh. This is a huge mystery, and I don't pretend to understand it all. What is clearest to me is the way Christ treats his church, and this provides a good picture of how each husband is to treat his wife, loving himself and loving her, and how each wife is to honor her husband. That's a whole lot. And I love that scripture just because it keeps me positioned, and it keeps my heart positioned when I want to stray away. Because the part that where he says, and the wife, I mean, in general, if we love someone, then we're going to love them the way that they need to be loved. So it's different for every household. These are clear instructions from God to treat each other as a husband would treat his wife, is the same way that God would treat his church. So that's very clear. Certain, I'll say, protocols and practices and things like that may differ from house to house. But the one thing that's very clear is that we should be treating each other the way that Christ treats the church. In Ephesians 5:21, it says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So that means a whole lot of times we talk about people that have unequally yoked and things of that nature. But even in regards to that, we treat each other and submit to each other out of reverence for Christ. So regardless of how we feel about our husbands, if we have married them, then it's our responsibility to treat them with and treat them and submit to them out of reverence to Christ. And God already gave us clear instructions. A whole lot of times we talk about how we have not had the best examples. Our examples were dysfunctional, and there's a lot of truth to that. A whole lot of us have not been shown how to be wives or been shown successful examples of not people that are just together, but people that are submitted to Christ the way that God desires for us to be submitted to Christ. And that works. His example that I just read works for everyone. Every married person use that example. Dysfunctional examples that we've been given, and not that they don't matter, but his word supersedes them. And Um, so God is in charge, and we should reflect his nature. His very nature is love and concern and radical sacrifice. We just celebrated the resurrection, and we just celebrated the resurrection of Christ, and the ultimate sacrifice was him laying down his life for us. And in that picture, he shows us that marriage requires a level of selflessness that we won't see exhibited anywhere else. So if we're looking for someone else to show us that, then we'll fail every time looking for that marker, because no one, I mean, I do like to think that I would lay down my life for my husband, for my family, that my service to them would be something that would seek to exude what Christ has done for me. So if we enter thinking that, hey, this is all about me, what is he, the quote unquote, what we hear a whole lot is, what does he bring into the table? What is he going to be able to do for me that I can't do for myself? And all these other things that culture and society has caused us to, not that those things are not important, because we should not judge character, but we should evaluate character when we're seeking a spouse. And if Christ put them in, or put us in their way, because we should be positioned to be chose. When a husband obtains, when he finds his good thing, he obtains favor with the Lord. So we should be working while we're waiting to be found. Just as in, just as kind of like what we're doing now, we're working until Christ comes back for us. So for those that are still waiting, then we should be in a position to be found, and we should be found working, not waiting for somebody to find us. So it requires, our marriage requires a mutual submission to God and to one another. And not to say that that's easy, but what Shantae and I, a whole lot of, well, no, just the basis of the teach is that submission is submission to God first. And we're getting under the mission of our husbands. And if you're, not married yet, then you should be evaluating in your, whatever the word is now, courting, getting to know, all those things. You should be evaluating whether the mission that the gentleman that you're in relationship with are getting to know, whatever phase you find yourself in. whether you're whether that's a mission that you can get, and whether God has called you to um, do life with them in that capacity. So marriage won't work unless you learn to love your mate by God's definition. That's something that I wrote down. On of the five love languages, and those things are definite. But God's definition of love is the ultimate love that we should be judging by, because He designed marriage, and the way that He dedicated on how He viewed love. He wanted His sons and daughters to experience the love that He gives, and His love is marked by giving and not getting. So, I just go back to that fact that a whole lot of times we think that we're getting something, and we are. The call to live life out with someone is definitely important, and one as of great sacrifice, like a whole times. You see the highlight reels of relationships, so see the inner workings that go into um, actually making a marriage work, the hard talks that it takes, the conversations that you have to go through in order to make sure that you're really pleasing the Father. Like, my husband did something I didn't like, and am I going to beat him over the head? I may want to, a lot of time, to like pull yourself back and pull back the restraints and be like, yeah, but really, what would Jesus do? We don't want to think about that in the moment, because we want to fly the mouth and, do whatever comes naturally to us. But it's a definite sanctification process, and we have to make sure that we're honoring God and His design when we're in relationships with our husband. Ephesians 5 shows us how a sacrificial love shapes our foundation for agape love. And agape love is rooted in choosing to give another person what they need more than what you feel like you deserve. And